Hi Kim.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? I'm so happy
Um,
you're here.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us today. I'm really, really happy and I'm so stressed because this is my really first live stream in English. So,
Oh,
yeah,
amazing.
it's a really great exposure for me now.
Uh-huh.
Because I did live streams in Polish and now I decided uh, to go out from my comfort zone and take a step forward. So
Amazing.
I'm really
Amazing.
happy.
You're you're doing the hard work. It's lovely.
Uh, how are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you so much. I apologize. I totally messed up our schedules. I
Ah,
didn't realize you were
no,
a
no
day ahead of
worries.
me.
No worries. I had a really, really interesting conversation with few people yesterday. I answered a few questions. Oh, hi Zach. And yeah, and it's awesome. We can talk together right now about so important thing. I yeah, I think
Great.
because today we decided to talk about knowledge, about self-awareness, because from my experience, I know it's a really great game changer in my recovery journey. Because for over 20 years, I didn't know anything about OCD, and my symptoms started 20 years ago. My family didn't know about OCD anything, and yeah, and I started reading books and information about OCD in last year after my diagnosis.
Your sound is a little out.
Yeah, sorry.
Can you
Now
try
it's
again?
better.
Yeah,
Or
that's better. Yeah.
one moment, I don't hear you now. Maybe without this. Now it's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. My mother-in-law called me, so I think it's something wrong with my headphones.
Right. Right. Someone said that Polish audio.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we can start. And as I told, in my case, took 20 years to start my to start therapy. It's definitely too long. And I noticed that when I start reading books, my really first book I read was book about OCD, and it's really hard because it triggered me so hard too when I read about many OCD teams, and I thought, okay, I have these symptoms too. But then I think that it's really helpful because I know I'm sure in 90% when it's OCD thought or not,
Yeah.
and this knowledge really helps me.
Well, and that's the point too, isn't it? You have to be able um to identify OCD in order to break the cycle. So if you're able to do that, um, that's
Mhm.
amazing that you can catch that now. But you said the books triggered you?
No, now it helps me really, and now I think I know really much about OCD, but even if I know this, I have this knowledge. It's also really hard to stop some compulsions, and even if I know it, it's really hard. So, but when I did anything, mm, it was like I was walking like I was blind. I was doing compulsions. I was asking for reassurance, and my family, my whole family didn't know anything, and they gave me reassurance. They helped me with my compulsions, and yeah, and
Yeah.
this is really, really bad
Right.
for my OCD.
Yeah. Someone had said knowledge doesn't equate to wisdom. It's true. I have clients who compulsively read workbooks and stuff, thinking that just reading it will ch flick something in their brain, but it is
Yeah,
about, like you're saying, catching those ruminations and so forth.
yeah, yeah. And I think at the start point, the knowledge is really, really good thing,
Yep.
but then we have to, we have to be really careful, because each day we can look for a new book, for new techniques, and this can be also be compulsive.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. Yeah. Someone said my OCD masquerades are not as knowledge. It's true. It does. It
Mm,
sometimes makes you think that it's the all-knowing truth, but it's not.
yeah, yeah, okay. And a really interesting question is also, I think, mm, because I know where to look, knowledge, wisdom, and yeah, yeah, I knew where to look, but I think there are many people uh, that they don't know what to do, where to look for help, and even if they don't have money for therapy, they don't know where to look for knowledge, where to look for help in on social media. This is also interesting point, because social media is really dangerous, I think. But yeah, the question is where should we start when we want to get some knowledge, and so some techniques they can help us, and what can we do ourselves for yeah, for our
Yeah.
mm, mental health.
So there's a couple of places that I would direct people. So the International OCD Foundation website is a really reliable
Yeah.
place to get education, especially so more research and
Mm,
understanding the condition. So that's where I always would send people. I think that there are also some really great workbooks out there. I always prefer people to read books than to go to social media, just
yeah,
because even myself, as someone who's on social media, to get people's attention, you have to be pretty, sometimes a bit spicy, a bit juicy,
mm,
and it can get a little like quick fix. You can, this is like
yeah,
people just posting their top 3 points for this
mm,
condition, and they miss the nuance. So I would always encourage a workbook. I wrote a workbook called the Self-Compassion Workbook for OCD. There's the Mindfulness Workbook for
yeah,
OCD. There's some amazing books out there for OCD. Um, and then um, there are some social media accounts where there is correct education, but again,
yeah,
as you
yeah,
said, you have to be careful of that, because so often I've had clients say that they're struggling like swiping on social media instead of actually going and using the tools that they already
yeah.
have.
And I think it's really easy to be a therapist in social
Yeah,
media, and everyone can do it, but without any knowledge, any experience. And mm, I I have also many situations when people ask me on DMs, Lucas, what should I do? And the first thing I tell them, I'm not a therapist.
yes,
I I base on my experience. I make mistakes. I had problem with OCD too. I'm suffering. but I'm not therapist. If you need help, if you have, for example, suicidal thoughts, go to therapist, go to professional help,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I also had few questions from people. Uh, we don't know what to do. I want to die or something, and I don't have experience as therapist, and I
Yeah.
don't want to be therapist. And this is the really first point I tell people.
Yeah.
But there are many accounts. We can't just check who is behind the Instagram, behind smartphone.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. And even some therapists too. I mean, some of if you have to catch whether they're selling something to you. Um, I think that if you can get access to therapy, that's always going to be the best way.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
IOCDF has a directory of international and domestic um, providers. Um, of course, we want to be respectful that can be very expensive. So again, that's where I would rely on, workbooks. There are some really great podcasts out there. OCD Stories is amazing at just telling
Yeah.
stories of people who have recovered.
Mm.
I have a podcast with it, which is more just basic tools. So I think there are some great resources out there.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree. And I'm also happy that I started with this my account, because earlier I didn't know this awesome society, this awesome community,
Yeah.
because there are many people who really care, who really want to help us, and this is awesome. But we have to be careful, as I
Yeah.
said
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And someone
and
says
if
that someone had written it's too much info, and it can be like
yeah,
there are so many
yeah,
accounts, it can also be overwhelming, especially if one person's saying this and the other one's saying something the opposite.
yeah.
It's hard to decipher.
That's why I follow just about 70 people
Yes.
with my account, because Instagram also can be so
Yeah.
overwhelming, and
Yes.
this feed, this post on my feed, I don't need this in my head.
Yes.
I don't mm, uh, they some post triggered me too, but it's okay. It's like an exposure, but and I know my posts, my memes are also triggering for some people, but yeah, too many information can be too much,
Yeah.
especially for some with OCD.
Yeah. 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 So I think with any education, and when we're talking about any education, it's a matter of checking in with yourself on, am I using this in a compulsive way? Even workbooks, like, am I returning to the same, sorry, my dog wants to be a part of our
Yeah,
conversation. Am I returning to the same chapter over and over again to get reassurance, or
yeah,
to
I know.
reinform that this is just my OCD? So I think we all have to keep in mind and catch ourselves in how we may be doing it compulsively.
Yeah, for me, I remember really helpful was John Hirschfield book,
Yeah.
and this was the really first book I read, and yeah, it helped me a lot. But then I bought a book about OCD, which triggered me so much. I read about harm OCD, POCD, and few OCD teams, and I have thought in my mind, I have this team too, yeah, or something else, and this is also really hard when someone start the journey.
Yeah.
At the really beginning, it's really important what we read and what sources we find.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Because
Someone had even
because
asked,
yeah,
someone
yeah,
had asked who wrote the mindfulness book. That is John Hirschfield. That's who
yeah,
you're talking about, John
yeah,
Hirschfield.
yeah, yeah. And some books are really easy to read for when we start our journey, and some books are really helpful, but maybe when we read this few months later,
Yeah.
because it's at the beginning it's really hard to understand the mechanism of OCD without help of therapists.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have the ability to see a therapist, that's going to be so, so helpful for sure.
Yeah, and in my case, I should be careful too because OCD is like yeah, black or white, or 100% or nothing.
Yeah.
And when I start doing something, I do it for 110%. And my wife told me, Lucas, be careful because I see you read a lot of books, and I think you start studying therapy or psychology, and she's right
Yeah.
because OCD, like yeah, 100% sure, yeah,
Yeah, for sure. For sure. But it's good that you have someone who can keep an eye on that for you, and or you can keep an eye on it as well. Um, so much
yeah,
of it is just catching those compulsions for sure.
yeah. And when we speak about now about our friends, our families, it's important too when they know something more about OCD than just obsessive compulsive disorder and
Yeah.
nothing else, because it's really easy to give someone reassurance without knowing
Yeah.
about it. And it's also, in my case, easy to understand because in my case, ROCD almost destroyed my life.
Yeah.
And I know it's really hard to understand for someone without OCD, why I ask for some questions, and why can I stop it, and it's really painful for the close ones and for our family. And I think it's also really important they maybe read few books or go to therapy with me or with someone with OCD, because it's easier to not engaging with compulsions with us, and also is a way to better understand that OCD is not me.
Yeah. Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Someone said, why do you think OCD is more stigmatized than depression, GAD, or other similar diseases?
mm,
Do what do you
yeah,
think?
uh, yeah. OCD is. It's really hard to understand for people, and it's stigmatizing. And when I speak with my friends, with my family, uh, they don't really understand, try to understand me, but they really don't get why I had these scary thoughts in my head. And this is the point also, to educate people.
Yeah.
And that's why I start no I start with memes, because I want to share my feelings somewhere outside, not in my home, because it's really sensitive theme in my home. but then I realize it can really help people.
Yeah, to laugh.
Yeah, to laugh and to get in easier way what really OCD is. And okay, maybe I had the same and I can start therapy. It's nothing wrong with starting therapy and or making step forward to take a mindfulness book or workbook and read it and
Yeah.
get to know something more about OCD and how can we help ourselves.
Yeah, agreed. I think it's also stigmatized because people have just only understood it as hand washing and jumping over cracks.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then when they hear about more of the other themes, the harm themes, the sexual themes, they're taken aback by that idea that someone would have a thought and um how could they, like, I think for them they don't have the same experience, therefore they stigmatize it, right? For them it doesn't make sense that some people's thoughts get stuck. They haven't had that
Hmm.
experience. um which is why it's so important to educate that people with OCD don't want these thoughts, that they, that they're intrusive and repetitive. And I think it's, that is a big piece of when I'm educating families of having them understand that stuck repetitive nature of OCD.
Yeah, and uh, I think it's also important to try people to understand that these intrusive thoughts are against our values,
Yes.
and we can accept these thoughts. They can be there, but these thoughts are not us.
Yes.
And this is the most important thing I think for our families
Yes.
because when I for 3 years was checking doors, windows, home appliances, I think it's not so painful for family than harm OCD, ROCD, or POCD to understand
Yeah.
because I really want to. I I really don't want to have OCD and suffer from OCD, but when I could choose now, I will choose checking windows
Mm.
because uh, ROCD is really painful for my wife, especially for my wife.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. I get the implications on that. I think I always sort of mention to people like OCD is OCD is OCD is OCD, meaning like they're all painful. But I agree with you that some don't include partners or children or family members, and
Mm,
some do. And it can be very, very painful for the family members, especially when their OCD targets a family member.
yeah.
For people who have, some people have emotional contamination where
Mm,
they feel emotionally contaminated by their sibling or their mom or their wife. You're right. In relationship OCD, sexual obsessions, they can impact the whole family system.
yeah. And that's we are here and that's we are speaking about it because when I started this I think beautiful recovery journey because I met so many awesome people, so many therapists who who I speak with, and I also think it's important because I don't really want people to go through this for so many years without help.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
And
Yeah.
absolutely, I think in the US is really really the knowledge is at really high level, because here in Poland, uh, we have many therapists, but many therapists don't know as much as is needed for OCD treatment.
Yeah.
And also in Polish language, I think it's not so many sources,
Yeah.
because I think now IOCDF is the best source when we can to start.
Yeah.
But I'm in the Facebook group there in Poland. There are about 6,000 people, but many people don't speak English, and this is also the problem, because now in Poland it's not so easy to find right
Yeah.
sources. But I
Yeah.
think we can change it. And
Yes.
so, yeah,
Yes. For sure. For sure. And I think that's the initiative everyone's going through right now, especially Australia is doing the same thing in terms of like, we don't have the English barrier, but it is educating doctors and therapists
mm,
to be able to detect OCD early, and get them to the
yeah,
right treatment early instead of, sending them to the wrong therapy or not
yeah.
diagnosing them at all.
Yeah, 20 years ago, I started because my OCD started when I was about 10. I can remember the first symptoms now when I really aware of what OCD is, but uh, my OCD was hit at me about, I think, 15 years ago, and then I went to therapist, and this is uh, the only one appointment for 20 years, because therapist told me you have anxiety disorder, and you need medication, and that's it. And I told myself, I I I don't have any disorder, and I can fix it alone. Yeah, and it takes 20
Yeah.
years when OCD started to destroy everything.
Yeah.
And I was really lucky, because I went to therapist last year in October or November, and she told me after 15 minutes speak, Lucas, this is OCD. And yeah, I was really lucky, and I
Yeah.
am really thankful her for this journey, because
Yes.
this is I
For sure.
yeah, and I know this is start, this is my beginning, because I'm in therapy for 1 year, and but I can start to do the right thing, the right ERP or ACT or something, and I don't have to change therapist and looking for the
Yes.
right one.
That's it. That's it. So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's so wonderful to hear. Like, and someone had said, what is the right therapy for OCD? Well, what do you want to share? Like, what therapy was right for you?
Uh, I have, I think, mixed therapy, because I know really much, and I think my knowledge is pretty at pretty high level. Uh, yeah, and I do ERP. I make ACT,
Yeah.
and my therapist know everything, maybe not everything, but know what ERP is, what CBT is, and this is for me really important, because she know what to do when I had really tough times, and I know she she doesn't reassure me when I ask her for something, and this is important
Yeah.
for me. But
Yeah.
as I said, when I started therapy, I was read about 7 books about OCD, and I know I know pretty much, but my therapist also, and she understands it.
Right, right. And those are the two modalities that I use as well. So the research shows that ERP is the most well science proven treatment
Yeah,
for OCD. We have a lot of evidence to supplement with ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy. Um, I am a big believer in also making sure there is a compassion focused
yeah,
component, because
yeah.
people with OCD tend to beat themselves up so much, um,
Mm,
to a degree where it often is compulsive too. They compulsively beat themselves up. So, I found those three together have been a really beautiful combination.
yeah, and self-compassion is I totally agree because I had few mental breakdowns where I really thought it's my fault.
Mm.
I had 1 month when I can stop compulsions, and then I had really tough one day, and I thought I have to start from the beginning,
Yeah,
from the starting point. But self-compassion is also important, and we have to look something about it, what it is, and that OCD is not me. It's
no,
important, and when
yeah.
we can look at this from this point of view, it's easier to be kind for ourselves.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a huge piece of the work. Um, Especially because ELP is not easy in and of itself. It's not an easy treatment
Mm,
to engage in. It's not just showing up and sitting on a couch for an hour and then coming
yeah,
home. So it does require
mm,
um, as much kindness as you can. Someone said,
yeah,
any tips for being self-compassionate without self-reassuring? Well, that's interesting. I'll answer that. Is self-compassion isn't removing discomfort. It's actually creating a safe place to have discomfort. So when we do reassuring behaviors, we're usually trying to reduce our uncertainty or our anxiety. Compassion isn't that. It's actually it's acknowledging that things are really hard right now and creating a really safe place to feel that feeling and doing nothing about it and not making it worse. And so,
mm,
it might be just acknowledging and validating, yeah, this is hard. When we get into like, you're going to be fine, bad things won't happen, like that will become compulsive. And we actually don't know that to be true anyway. So I think compassion is more about how can I take care of myself and love
mm.
myself while I feel this discomfort.
Yeah, absolutely agree.
Yeah,
It's really important,
yeah,
especially when we have these scary, awful thoughts. We don't want to have it, and it's really hard to accept it, but it's necessary to accept that these thoughts are just thoughts.
yes.
Yeah, and at this point, I think about also about important something important because knowledge about medication and combining it with therapy is also
Mm.
important because last time my friend told me he has OCD too, and told me that his therapist told that medication doesn't work, and yeah, and 99% is therapy, and he uh, didn't start taking medication. And this is, sorry, but this is bullshit.
Yeah.
Because also there are psychiatrists, they tell people for OCD works drugs only, medication only, and you don't have to go to therapy. And this is not the solution. And
No.
knowledge about it is also really important because you know, people think that when they start taking medication, they will do this to the end of their lives or
Yeah.
something. And
No,
yeah,
no, in fact, the research shows that the gold standard treatment for OCD is a combination of exposure and response prevention and an SSRI. It shows the research that if you were to choose between therapy or medication, let's say in a hypothetical world you could only pick one, that the therapy has better outcomes. However, the combination is where you will have the most success. And that usually requires some trial and error with SSRIs. There's not a one size fits all. If you
mm,
Google the IOCDF, if you write into Google IOCDF medication, they have a whole article on the specific medications that have been researched and the doses that are
yeah,
considered like an OCD dose, because a dose for depression is different than a dose for
yeah,
OCD. And I completely agree with you. I've had clients who have not gone on medication and they have still recovered. Um, it's just a little harder, if I'm going to be honest. They have, it's like the hill is a little steeper for them because they don't
mhm,
have the assist of a medication.
yeah. And also it's a really good thing because in IOCDF page we can find many helpful information. And for my Polish friend, we have Chat GPT or something. We can translate this. Absolutely, I don't recommend use Chat GPT for doing therapy. Absolutely not,
No.
because people use this for different ways. But yeah, but we can Google Translator, and I absolutely recommend IOCDF page
Yeah.
and starting from this point
Yeah.
about medication and about therapy.
Sorry.
About
Yeah.
medication and also about
Agree.
therapy when we speak about these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can start from IOCDF, and I think it's not problem nowadays because we can translate this
Yes.
for any language we want.
Yes. What a wonderful opportunity we now have to get that translated into
Yeah,
any, and the good news is it's all graphs. It's not like they're misinterpreting it either. It's like
yeah,
those articles in particular would be very well translated, I would imagine. Yeah.
yeah.
And someone said, what's the name of the website? It's IOCDF, so the International OCD Foundation.org. Yes, and that's a .org.
Okay, I think
There we
it's good.
go. We got it.
Yeah, yeah, and absolutely don't use ChatGPT for questions. Can I mix SSRI with alcohol or something? For this is your specialist.
Yes.
Or if you want to drink alcohol or something, but be really careful. And this is my advice: be really careful in looking for something helpful in social media.
Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, and be hopeful. I know we haven't got a lot of time left, but I would be hopeful. You can recover. It takes time. There is support.
yeah,
Even if I think that social media is where you could go for support, right? Like feeling
yeah,
less alone, seeing that other people are struggling. I think that we could use social media as an opportunity to connect with people, um, but not for only, education.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing that social media gives us give us this opportunity to speak each other, to be in this community, to share with other people's our experience. But yeah, therapist is the best way to
Yeah,
start the really, really good recovery journey.
yeah, yeah.
And I'm so happy we can speak together because I was really stressed.
Oh, you've done
Yeah,
beautifully. Your English is amazing.
yeah, the first time, but I think we can speak in New Year or something
Yes,
about something else.
yes.
And I saw you was on Spotify.
Yeah, I actually I was interviewed on Molly Sims's podcast yesterday,
Yeah,
which was very exciting, all about
amazing.
anxiety. It was really exciting. It was so cool to see the Spotify studios and see, like, mine is like in my lounge room recording and theirs is so fancy. Like that's like one day goals, hopefully. But yeah, it was really, really cool and cool just to talk about anxiety with people who probably are getting a lot of misinformation about how to manage
Mm.
anxiety. So it was cool to get on. The whole thing was like dispelling the myths about anxiety treatment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm waiting now because 2 weeks ago I was in Warsaw, in Polish capital of Poland, and we made podcast in Polish radio and about OCD too, because I think it's
Amazing.
really, yeah, it will be really helpful for people, for Polish community to better
Yes.
understand what OCD really is and
Yes.
what it's not.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you for doing that.
So I thank you for whole my heart for this conversation. Uh, I think if you agree, I will put it on YouTube with Polish subtitles
Yeah.
also for
Yeah.
Polish people.
Great.
And yeah,
Amazing.
and thank
No,
thank
of
thank
course.
you very much.
Oh, it's my
Yeah,
pleasure. It's lovely to meet you in person.
yeah, my pleasure too. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for this opportunity, and see you maybe in next year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year! Woo!
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Thanks so much. I'll
Thank
talk to
you,
you
thank you,
soon.
Kimberly. Bye bye.